Warning, this video is not targeted to kids and may be inappropriate to younger audiences. Your discretion is advised. Hello, dudes and dudettes. It's your favorite reject gamer Mixer17 here, and I am back once again for the final Arkham Asylum video I'm going to be making. So look forward to that. Somewhat. And for today's final episode for Arkham Asylum will be the character trophies. Now, I have not looked at any of these things whatsoever, so this is going to be very interesting to come across. We'll start off with Batman. Very simple design. In fact, I must admit, when I first saw it, I thought, dang, this is awesome. Now when I look at it, I'm like, huh. It looks like there's just a lot of padding everywhere. Even the gauntlets don't look like they have a whole lot of protection. But all in all, I must admit, it's pretty interesting to say, none the least. I mean, you definitely get to see a lot of the details because of this trophy thing. I mean, look at these boats. Look at these boats. There's something else entirely different than one would ever expect. And of course, it shows all the wear and tear that he has, such as across his chest, which I don't fully understand where he got. Right there on his arm. I could have sworn there was another one. Oh, I think... no, there isn't. There's one right on his leg right there. I just noticed he has kneecap things. Knee pad things. But yeah. This is Batman with his very, very interesting choice of armor. But hey, whatever. And then there's the armored variant, which I had not taken a look at all until I actually played one of the challenge maps. Only one. And with the armored variants, I'm like, wow, I wonder what the heck this thing will do. And then I look at it, I'm like, what the heck, this looks like as if Tony Stark gave Batman his own suit. Because it really kind of does. It's got some metal plating here and there, and look at the cape. The cape looks more metallic. Yeah, we'll stick with metallic. And look at the back of the cowl as well. From the back of the shoulders up, it's really unique. And then look at this mask. Look at it. It's also metal plating. It also looks like it's metal plating as well. It looks like it's got some like screws and stuff with its little middle side. Of course, with its big old frown. And then, of course, the cape. It really looks metallic. And then look at this whole thing. It's all shiny and everything. It's got less straps. No wear and tear, because I don't think this thing can get any wear and tear, except for maybe some destroyed bits and pieces. Look at the gauntlets. The gauntlets actually look like they're protecting him. And of course the belt looks a lot more exaggerated in size than the previous model. But yeah, all in all, this is a very, very interesting design, which I kind of like. Not too much, but it's pretty cool, to say none the least. It's pretty cool indeed. And then afterwards we have the Joker, obviously. Now the Joker is a very, 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 oops, god dang it, I always click on the wrong thing. Is a very interesting character in the Arkham series, at least in my opinion. And when it comes to his appearance with Arkham Asylum, there's so many small little details that it looks like as if he's covered in blood, which I'm assuming it is blood, all over his suit. Because look at it. It would look like as if it is blood. And it just covers him head to toe. Then of course he's got that little patch right there on his knee. I wonder if he did that by himself. Or himself. With his shoes, which I must admit they're quite fancy as well. And then look at that face. Now, Titan-powered Joker. Haha, a really terrible design. I remember when I was younger, when I first played it, I'm like, what in the world is this? This is awesome! Now that I'm looking at it, it's bad. Look, this would have been awesome if it wasn't like Joker, and instead it was like something else. But since this is Joker, it looks terrible for him. I mean, look at it. He has a tiny head with a weird mohawk. Like, where the heck did the rest of his hair go? And then from a tiny head on a ginormous body that makes no sense. His pants are torn. He's barefoot. We got parts of his knee coming out, which really shouldn't be biologically possible in the way that they are. We got these weird finger claw things that extend a foot long with all these arm pieces, which somewhat biologically makes sense, somewhat, a small fracture. And then on top of that, we got these ribs poking out on the sides, which kept bothering me when I kept seeing them, because really, I don't think that's a good thing for him to be having. And then look at his shoulders. What? I mean, it makes sense for the accelerated growth of the whole thing happening, but man, this is something else. And then the spine. Like, why the spine? It reminds me of a Spinosaurus, but there is no functional purpose of that happening for him. In all reality, the time-powered Joker wasn't exactly a great introduction. It was also a lame fight as well, but hey, we can't all be winners. Harley Quinn is a very, very, very interesting character when it comes to the Arkham series. In Arkham Asylum, she's, well, wearing a very old-fashioned, like very old-fashioned, what's it called? Nurse outfit. There you go. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not really a nurse outfit. It's something else entirely different. However, I will admit, when it comes to these boots, like, how thick are these soles? How can she do all those backflips and everything with these thick soles? What are these, like 2 inches, 3 inches thick? And then the boots, like, how in the world can she walk in those all willy-nilly when they cover over her knees? Just makes no sense. But whatever. What I will admit though is that they did throw in some interesting parts, such as the, what's it called, the spiked bracelets that she has on. Of course, they to keep up with somewhat of her original costume design, which was the red and black jester for, of course, when she first came out as Harley Quinn. I like that. That's pretty interesting. I like how they did that. Some parts of it just kind of don't make a whole lot of sense. And then what's with the collar? And then the fact that from her whole outfit to her face, it just doesn't fit, in my opinion. It throws me off with her face. It just doesn't look like it fits throughout her outfit, but hey, what am I to judge? Poison Ivy, a very interesting character model, which I think they did a very well job with. Rocksteady, I believe that's what they're called. I think they did a very well job in Arkham Asylum. Of course, it gets better to some degree, and I must admit, they really got Poison Ivy like really out there with how she actually is. So the fact that they had her the way that she is now, it would have been more interesting to find out more story, like why the heck they would have her as this in the first place. Why, what, the guards were like so perverted they just said, yeah, here you go, here's a shirt. But whatever. I'm pretty sure there actually is a story, I just don't know where it is, but who knows. I like to think that she does this on purpose, just for the sole sake to keep her seductiveness. Anywho, Other than that, though, I do like the fact that they threw on the vines on her all throughout her body, and having leaves stick out of her as well. It's really, really interesting. You can see it a lot on the legs, but you can also see it on the arms as well, such as right here. Now, I also like how the vines not really swirl, but they curve quite a lot, much like how normal vines somewhat work as, except normal vines are a little bit of a weird one. However, one interesting small little detail is her toes. Why are her toenails red? Where the heck did she get all that? And then on top of that, her fingernails as well. Why are they red? Where did she get them? Anything? Does that also come with her what's it called? Appearance? Because if so, that's very interesting and of odd choice. I can understand the red hair. She could have had red hair in the first place, but what do I know? And then the Titan Henchman. Once again, still throws me off with several things, like where the heck the sharp claws came from, why their own protrusions coming out in certain areas. I mean, at this rate, it looks more like, it reminds me more of the Resident Evil franchise, where the cells and the whole entire body is growing at a cancer rate that it just wouldn't make any sense. I have got to shut up this phone. And it just wouldn't make any sense for it to appear like this. Like, for instance, the spine. An exposed spine like this just looks like as if that's a very big weak point. Strike it at a good point and boom, you're paralyzed, you're down, you're probably even dead. And then even look at it closer, you can see that some parts of the spine look like they're missing. So it doesn't even make sense on top on there. And then, of course, the feet stick with their like enlarged area with black toenails, apparently, much like how the fingertips are. On top of that, the face, I don't know. It's slightly understandable that the face would appear the way it is. Just makes me think, oh, this person's probably like a really pissed off person and they're probably gonna burst a blood vessel and probably die from internal bleeding. Anywho, Scarface, a really tiny person. Now, I kind of find this a little bit disappointing. The fact that they didn't just have Scarface by himself. Again, I always mess that up. I think having Scarface just by himself would have been a lot more interesting than with him being sat on Joker's lap. But let's take a good look at Scarface while at it. Now, Scarface was vandalized, sadly, by the Joker. And you can definitely see that there is a lot of, carved areas, such as his face. You can tell that his face is, of course, carved in multiple bits, like his ears, the mouth shape, of course. What's it called? His nose, along with his eyes, including the eyelids, and of course the weird hair designs. You can't really see much of his body other than his legs, which now that you actually look at his legs, I don't think they were designed all that great. Just the fact that it looks like it's just his pants were there, and then his legs are connected to his pants and nothing else. But other than that, though, Scarface is pretty interesting. Sadly vandalized, but oh well. Gives it more of a characteristic to what's going down. Killer Croc. This guy. This monstrosity that gave me one hell of a hard time. Now I click on the right button. This guy is something else. Of course, you can see all of his scales, which a genetic mutation would seem very, very, very off than just a genetic mutation. Maybe if it was some type of chemical thing that affected him genetically, well, that would make sense. To the extent of this, not so much, considering the fact that I've seen many types of rare skin conditions that affected people. This is nowhere near them. But hey, I'm probably speculating, but I'm no biologist or anything, so what the heck do I know? Anywho, looking at a really cool design is the fact that when it comes to his restraints, you can definitely see that they took the opportunity to really make sure he was restrained. They cuffed his hands, they cuffed his feet, they even cuffed his neck with an electric collar that apparently they say does not hurt him, which makes sense. They later on you'll see how they say Killer Croc adapts to all of the injuries he is inflicted by. Of course, they keep up with a lot of the interesting parts of a Croc and threw it on to him, and they make him wear something at least, luckily. I don't think we want to see that hanging. And Bane. Bane. Is there anything to say about Bane at this rate? Bane, of course, has restraints on his feet, but they keep his gear on him. Now, I'm not 100% sure on why they would keep his gear on him. My theory is the fact that maybe his gear was put back onto him, but it doesn't make sense all too much. But the same it does. It's a bit of a confusing theory of mine. I'm not going to bother explaining it. However, you can definitely see that there's a lot of parts of his body that looks like they installed specific things, such as his spine. Looks like they installed some weird mechanism. His arms, they threw in some parts. I'm assuming those parts would probably increase more of those pipes tubes into his system, as you can clearly see right here on his right side, with his big old gauntlets, which of course pump more venom into him, which I question what their real purpose is, because they don't actually look like they're connected to anything else. But whatever. Everything else, of course, his backpack, which I wonder if it ever runs out of venom. His face, I remember, yeah, it looks like it's put on, not surgically installed onto him. And his belt, I don't know if that belt actually serves any purpose, because just look at it. Maybe it holds his pants on, but that's about it. Moving on, we'll go on to the Batmobile, which was sadly sacrificed when we had to push Bane into the water, which we already know he would not die from, luckily. Now, this car model is very interesting. It's actually really cool. It reminds me of the, I think it's the Batman Forever, or Batman and Robin. It reminds me of one of those two cars more than it does of the Batman or Batman Returns Batmobile. Which I must admit, this is a very cool design that I really do like. Although it still kind of throws me off with some parts of the game. And then the Batwing. This thing is very slick, and of course it's dark with its bat-themed appearance, and of course one seated pilot, which must admit it's a bit of a flaw, but he usually works alone, so I can't really blame him. I must admit though, I do question where some of his what's it called, defense mechanisms are. I mean, I know he doesn't kill anyone, but he must have something at least. Scarecrow, quite a bit of a interesting design. I like the body, don't get me wrong, I like the body. I like how it is, the way that he put himself as when it came to, of course, being within Arkham. However, I think him being shirtless was a bit excessive, and I think the mask was a little bit less impressive. But hey, whatever. His feet is very interesting because if you look at it, they're wrapped up in bandages. He doesn't have shoes, or he's not walking around barefoot. They're wrapped up, well, I mean, he's tailor-wrapped, running around barefoot, but he has bandages. His suit is stitched with straps all over his legs. His he has for his forearms, and a little bit up his biceps, upper arm. His both hands are wrapped up with bandages. I don't know if that's from being inflicted in pain, specifically around the fingers, or not, but I'm not 100% sure on that either. His right glove, of course, has his venom syringe needles. However, I question how it works, in the sense that, did he cut off part of his fingers so that it could fit, or was it something else? Because it doesn't look like it could actually fit his fingers almost near as very well. But who knows, I could probably be not looking that well enough, so it's just merely speculation. And however, the glove itself is quite bulky, but he has to make do with what he's got, so I can't really blame him too much. Victor Zsasz. Now, Victor Zsasz I thought was an absolutely interesting character design because it really does fit him. He exposes most of his body, which really fits him, except for parts of his arms, which is understandable because of course they have to keep him locked in tight. And I'm pretty sure if this guy was on his own, he'd probably go around walking around in the nude, you know, just that way he could cut himself everywhere. You can see all of his scars with his really, Jesus Christ, really shiny blade that I'm having a hard time trying to look at. You can see his tattoos, which again, I question how he got some of those cuts. What was he doing? Did he have like a makeshift knife, bent knife or something like that? With his 4 scars above his head, which I'm assuming that's where he keeps that one for Batman, since that one makes the most sense to me at least. Aaron, Cash, and the other guards. However, it doesn't actually show all the variety of guards that they have. Now, the guard's uniform is somewhat of what you would expect. The boots, understandable. I can totally understand. The jeans, not really. Maybe the side pockets, yeah, I can understand that. The belt with all of its pouches, yes. The, of course, protective bulletproof vest, well, bullet-resistant vest with the riot helmets, understandable. I can even understand the riot protection gear, which is the shoulder, elbow pads, and the gloves. But having some parts of the body not being all that protected, such as the forearms and a little bit around the neck, not so much of a great choice in design. And then of course there's Cash. He's just, well, he just looks like a police officer, which I don't think is exactly a good option for him. Of course you can see his hand, which I've always wondered, he does in fact have 2 hooks onto it, which eventually connect up to its tip. Warden Quincy Sharp. He is kind of what you expect. Formal attire with his really over-exaggerated cane, which has the symbol for Arkham in it. He has a bit of a rose with a red tie, and of course his face with gray hair, semi-bald, and some glasses that I know there's a specific name to it, but nothing really all too interesting. He's quite boring to me. Commissioner Gordon. Now, I like the hat, don't get me wrong. I just don't think the hat looks good on him in this way. He doesn't really look exactly all that great. He looks like he could be mistaken to be in his late 70s. Of course, he keeps up with his attire fairly well. Looks like a detective more than anything. There's the vest. And yeah, not really much to say. Except for the fact that I will admit that during the cutscenes, I always thought, you know what, this guy looks really buffed up. I don't know if they exaggerated that or if that was an honest mistake. Frank Boyles. Now, Frankie boy, he looks like a lot like the other police guards, except he has different colored protective gloves and elbow pads. I don't know if that's a ranking thing. His shoes are slightly different from what I saw from over there. They look like boots, where here he looks like he's just wearing tennis shoes. He's got slicked back hair. They look like they could be a decent length, and of course he's got this big old exaggerated scar over his eye with whiteness, but nothing really all that interesting. And then the Arkham inmates. Now, this one, I don't know if they would actually, then again, this is Arkham. Arkham's a very strange one. The fact that they have their patients like this is not something that I would see as a high probability of even happening. Their clothes are too torn up. They have parts, they have straps on them that wouldn't even really make a whole lot of sense. Them walking barefoot, I can somewhat understand, but here's what I don't understand. Some of the okay, the face restraints I can understand. The extreme face restraints like this, not so much. And then for some of them to keep having these on, I can understand if they were undergoing a procedure, but man, that would suck if that was the case, and that would hurt as well. Blackgate prisoners. Now, I'm assuming that these guys, of course, as you can clearly see, they have a very different more design compared to other inmates who are from Arkham. Obviously, they have different color. They look like buffed up henchmen. They're always walking around barefoot, which I always wonder, did they ever step on anything that hurts them? I don't understand why most of them are bald, of all things. And this, why is it that it's always these guys who always look like they could be wearing a straitjacket, but they're not? And they're always restrained by a lot on the face. They remind me, that mask reminds me of one of my top 3 favorite movie villains, being, I don't know if everyone knows this, but they go by the name of Hannibal Lecter. I find that character very interesting. Oh, and that's it. Very short character trophies, nothing all too interesting, and that's just all I wanted to show as the last bit left of course, Batman Arkham Asylum. All that's really left is just the challenge modes, and that's it. All of Arkham Asylum is literally just done. So, with that done, and without further ado, thank you everyone for joining me on this very, very short, small little mini-series, I guess you can say. And I will see you all in a different video. Goodbye.